Okay, so we will be starting our session with kind of for the interview preparation today. The first question is how to introduce yourself. The second question is who drives the interview. It's whether the interviewer or interviewee. The third question which we're going to be answering is how much coding is needed to clear the data engineering interview, and what sort of questions can be asked by either party, like by you or by the interviewer. So let's start with the first interview. The first question: how to introduce yourself, right? So the two ways to introduce yourself. The first way is top-down approach. Top-down approach, in which you will start from top. It means you will start with your latest company, right? And latest project, and then go till the end, right? And so now the question arises, do you need to tell everything, every project what you did in your last whatever experience you have, 5, 6, 10 years experience? I would say no. But in this approach, you need to give lot of detail for your latest project, what you're doing. And your latest project should be around kind of revolves around the job description for which you are applying the job or for which you are giving an interview. Let's say the job description is all about Spark SQL, right? And let's say Scala. And you know that you worked on Spark SQL and Scala not in your latest project, but maybe 6 months back, 1 year back. So what you need to say that, okay, you need to tell about this project on which you worked on this. Why? Because maybe interviewer is more interested to hear about those things for which he is hiring, right? Now, what I think this is the safest approach. Now, let me tell you the other approach.
Nilendra, is this recording?
Yeah. The other approach is bottom approach, right? Bottom up approach. In this approach, what you're going to be saying that you start from your last job with some roles and responsibilities, right? And then you come to the latest or current job. Sorry. Latest and current job. Okay. Okay, so so now latest or current job. Sorry, something messed up on my system. So yeah, latest or current job. And then once you reach to your current job, then you need to start with your current project, right? So these are the two approaches. Now the question arises, what to say in your introduction? Either you start with top down or bottom up. What you need to tell in your introduction, right? So when you work for any data engineering job, basically what you do almost 4 things. First, you do the data ingestion, right? The second thing, this is the first. Second thing, what you need to do, you do data cleansing. The third thing is data transformation, maybe. Data transformation. And the fourth is data visualization. So these are ideally the 4 steps what you do in your data engineering day-to-day life, right? Now let's see what tools we have used or you need to say when you talk about data ingestion, right? So there are a number of tools, but the 2 tools are major. The first is Scope. The second is Spark. And these are, if we need to ingest from RDBMS, right? Spark maybe from RDBMS, whatever, and files, both, right? So this is the tools what you need to use for ingestion. The second tool for data cleansing is majorly Spark. Majorly Spark, right? Spark, or sometimes you can use Hive as well, just to see some kind of, not, but majorly you will use Spark. Data transformation, again Spark. In your past life, if you starting your career, if you started your career in 2010 and you are showing 9 or 10 years experience, or maybe 8+ years experience, you can say in data cleaning, data transformation, you can say Pig, right? In data transformation, Spark and Pig again. In Hive as well for joining and all. Then data visualization, this is the most important thing. See, why we are doing all this stuff, right? So that people, they can use the data. They can see the value out of the data. And to see the value in data, we need to use some visualization tools. The most common tools in markets are Power BI. Second is Tableau, AdScale, and what else? Splunk. Okay. So now these are the 4 phases, right? Now, these 3 phases, especially what I'm talking about, these 3 phases are somehow, 3 phases means data ingestion, data cleaning, and data transformation, are somehow integrated or stitched with each other, right? They are stitched with each other. It means you will be ingesting the data. Then once your data is ingested, you will be cleaning it, you will be transforming it, and then you will be storing it somewhere, right? And then once the transformed data is stored, you will be running your visualization tools on this. Now, who is doing this stitching? So what you need to cover? You need to cover 2 things here. One is your wrapper script. Wrapper script. This wrapper script can be written in any language. That depends which language you should know. So wrapper script can be written in shell scripting, shell script, or maybe in Python, or sometimes in Scala as well. In most of the cases, it is written. Okay, so this is how it works. Now, the 5th and the most important thing, how you schedule these jobs. Scheduler. Scheduler. So scheduler, in most of the cases, is nowadays it's Airflow, but people are still using Oozie, or there are other like Control M. Okay, so this covered your whole ecosystem, right? So how you need to introduce that? Okay, I have been working in industry for last 10 years. Currently, I'm working in XYZ company as a data engineer. Here I am working with business to resolve this particular use case. And here we are using for data ingestion, Spark and Scoop. For data cleaning, we are using Spark, Hive, and Pig. For data transformation, I have a lot of experience in Spark. For data visualization, we are using here Power BI, but I got experience in Tableau as well, right? And then we are using shell scripting or maybe Python scripting to integrate these all scripts. And the scheduler what we have used is Airflow, right? Now, so this covers your technical stack. This covers your technical stack. Now the next question is why we are doing it. Now the bigger question where a lot of people struggle. See, technical thing can be learned from internet, but the problem statement or the business statement or the business, what value you are adding to the business, what is the purpose of data engineering in your current company, right? So let's say if you're working in banking, then what purpose you could have solved? The first is moving, see, this is the most common use case, moving your existing ETL processes from tools like Informatica or SSIS to Spark, right? Now this is the problem statement. Why you are doing it? To make them run faster, right? and to have more control, kind of. This is again a technical extent, to have more control. Now, what the interviewer might be interested that, okay, what these existing ETL jobs are doing, what are these jobs, and how much volume of data. So we know three things about data, three V's of data, right? They are pretty used in interviews in a lot of different ways. So when we talk about three V's, right, there are actually 4, 5, 6 V's, but let's talk about three V's. Volume, variety, and velocity. So these three V's are used in volume, variety, and velocity. These three V's are used in many different formats in your interview. So the first question will be around volume. What volume of data you are ingesting, right? What is the variety of data you are ingesting? And in what velocity your data is coming, or at what velocity your jobs are running, right? So when we talk about volume of data, the volume of data may varies from 2 gig to 20 gig or 20 TB, whatever. Depends upon the organization or the type of the data. For example, if you are into log analytics, let's say if you are working in booking.com, right, and you are working into the traffic management team or traffic analytics team, then this data, if you are analyzing logs, bringing value out of the log, then this data might reach to 50 gigs or 1 TB or something. Not a big deal, right? If you're working in some banking company and analyzing the payments, customer behavior, then this data might reach to 50 gigs, right? If you're working in a small company in which the customer base is not big, it may be 100K or something, this data might be 20 gigs or 5 gigs, whatever. It all depends how big the company is and what big business problem you're solving. Still, I haven't touched the business problem. I'm just revolving around technical thing, right? Now the variety of data. So next question, what they're going to be asking, what type of data you are ingesting, right? So you will say RDBMS. When say RDBMS, they will be asking which databases. So you can say Oracle, whatever database you have used, Oracle, SQL Server, anything, right? The second thing is and I explained this multiple times. This only contributes to 20% of your overall data. The next data set is your files, right? Files, and the files can be CSV, text, JSON, any types of files, right? Right now we only covered structured data. We will be covering unstructured data, and if interviewer is moving towards unstructured data, then go towards it. But if he seems happy here, then don't go to unstructured data, just stay here. Now let's come into velocity. So velocity means real-time data, first thing, right? What type of data, what is the velocity of the data by which you are ingesting it into your system, right? So if you are having into batch processing, right? So there are two types of processing: batch processing and streaming processing. So when we talk about batch processing, it might be that you are running batch twice a day, thrice a day, 12 times a day, 24 times a day, depending upon the batch, right? So it is not real time. When we talk about stream processing, you are processing it in near to real time, maybe in 1 second, 2 seconds, 5 seconds, right? So this is the velocity of data. Now, in most of the cases, you will be working with batch processing, and then you will be using your stream processing data to enrich your batch data, kind of. Okay, I'll cover that use case, don't worry. So volume covered, variety covered, and velocity covered, right? One more thing is, when we talk about batch processing or stream processing, how your jobs are scheduled. So let's say if you are into batch processing, your jobs are scheduled to run every hour, right? And if there is a dependency onto previous job, let's say your job is running for 45 minutes in most of the cases, but there's dependency of first job onto second job, then you won't start your second job till this job is completed. If this job is delayed, these jobs are also delayed, kind of this. So you need to think about your scheduler as well. Okay, now coming to the business case. Okay, now business case. So what I would suggest, go start your introduction obviously with the things what I tell you, but do bring the business case in your discussion. Business case means that, for example, okay, I'm working in banking and I'm working with fraud analytics team to determine the payment frauds. So what we are doing, we are ingesting data from different data sources, like for example, from transactional data sources, from card payments, from online payments, then we are seeing the customer behavior. Then so when we talk about data sources now, so I have 3 types of data sources. I have Oracle data coming from Oracle data source. I have data coming from customer card transaction in JSON format. Then I have data coming from Kafka streaming and number of things. And then we are merging it and we are producing the data, right? And then if it's purely batch streaming, then what do you say? If it's healthcare company, you'll say, I'm working in some payment reporting team. So whenever a customer make the premium for the insurance, there is an entry done into the database. So what we are doing, we are bringing this data from traditional data warehouse into HDFS. Then we are doing some cleaning, transformation. Then we are storing it, doing some analysis, and then we are storing back to traditional databases. Something like this. Why we are doing it? So that team who is our data science team can have cubes. So what do you mean by cubes here? So cubes is the most used terminology when you work with big data. So what you do actually, you ingest the data, you clean it, you transform it, and you make the joins, and you try to bring value out of it. For example, in most simple example, you have employee table, you have department table. Here you have here are 2 columns only, name, in fact 3 columns, ID, name, department ID, right? And here you have 2 columns, department ID and department name. So let's say, and here we have 200 million rows, and here we have, let's say, 100 million, whatever, 100k, right? So what I want, what my analysis team want, or analytics team want, they want data like this: name and then department name. Or in fact, they want how many employees. In fact, not this one. This is not the queue. So they want department name and employees who are working, employee number of employees who are working in this department. So for example, in CS, we have 100k working. In mechanical, we have 500k working, something like this, right? So there are 2 ways to do it. 2 ways means what? Every time when your analytics team wants the data, you run a query, you hit the play button, and this data is populated. Or since this data is not changing a lot, right? Every day, not hundreds of many employees are joining. So what do you say? Okay, I have the data for T-1 days. T-1 means transaction minus 1 day, and I'll run this process every, what I'll say, 2300, and I'll update this table, and then I'll give the data to you next working day. So what cube means, to store multi-dimensional data from multiple tables using joining and store it into some table, so that if we want to use it, we can use this data from cube, rather than we need to run queries on your source databases again and again. There are multiple drawbacks of running your query onto the source database. It is not performance tuned, it is resource intensive, lot of resources has been used, and lot of drawbacks. So in majority you will be using cubes. So where I was, that you can say that we are creating cubes of multi-dimensional data. For example, how many people have purchased the insurance, how many people have defaulted the payment, how many people have purchased the insurance by regions, purchased the insurance by states, purchased the insurance by gender, and number of things. So you can create a number of queues. So rather than you hit your databases again and again, you can have queues here, right? So this is the use case what you guys can, and in most of the data engineering companies, this is the what they're doing, right? So now let me conclude. So when somebody asks you to introduce yourself, so the safest bit is start from top and go till bottom. Focus on lot of on your latest project. Try to make your latest project revolves around the technology which is written in your into the job description, and then once the technical stuff has been done, so try to cover all the 4 or 5 phases: data ingestion, data cleaning, data transformation, data visualization. Once that is done, then come to the business problem that, okay, we are doing this stuff. We are trying to satisfy some requirement from our data engineering team to give data to our data science team, data analytics team. And this is the problem statement. And this is the business value what we are adding right now. So this is all about how to introduce yourself, and this is the most important thing. And to be honest, what I feels like when I take the interview, your interview has been decided here. So the interview has been decided here that we need to select this candidate or not. So if you're not very good with introduction, then your interview is gone. Now the tips, how you need to prepare your introduction, right? So if you are new, if you're not confident, try to write everything on paper or Word document or anything. Write everything. Don't be overconfident. Write everything on a Word doc, right? And before interview, try to read it. Sometimes what happens that we are so overconfident that we don't even realize that what we are talking about, right? So we know that, okay, we know a lot of things, but to put those things into sequence, for example, technologies, business values, latest project, oldest project, whatever. So what you need to do is write this thing in paper and try to iterate those things multiple times before the interview. Okay. So this is the first thing. The second thing is, most of the interviews are video calls. So try to have the eye contact with the cameras. Try to look into the interview side. Don't look here and there, right? It will look like that you are not confident enough. So that's what. So try to practice it. Okay. What else? So this what covered how to introduce yourself. And now the next question is, who drives the interview? Okay. Next question is, who drives the interview? When I say drives the interview, it means who is asking the question. The obvious answer is interviewer will ask the question, but what type of questions he's asking, right? So according to me, a good interviewer is who let the interviewee drives the interview. For example, if you are giving interview and you say, hey, my last project is in Spark, I did this thing, then a good interviewer should be asking question from Spark rather than from Kafka. If you are talking about Spark, he should be asking question from Spark, right? So in the best case scenario, let's assume that interviewer is very professional and he is letting you drive the interview, right? So let's talk about best case scenario. That you are driving the interview. That means interview is driving the interview. Now, if I put the ball into your court, what you're gonna be talking about? Obviously, you will talk about the topics which you are more confident. You have worked a lot, you have prepared a lot, and you everything. For example, if you are very comfortable with Spark, you will be talking, okay, my last project is all about Spark streaming, RDDs, data frames, Spark SQL, Spark performance tuning, lot of things. And I did this, I did joining, I did worked in multi gigs data sources, I did broadcast joining, I did this and number of things. So now, so you are very good in Spark and you put the ball into interviews court. Okay, ask me any question from Spark, right? Ask me any question from Spark. Now what good interviewers do, before even starting the interview, after your introduction, they will ask you, okay, how will you rate yourself in Spark, in Kafka, in Scala, in Python, in a lot of things. So they usually ask you to rate yourself from 1 to 10. 1 means bad, you don't know anything. 10 means you know everything. And if you rated yourself 7.5 or 8.5, it means you know everything, right? So try to rate yourself, don't be overconfident, try to rate yourself genuinely. And if you rate yourself good, then be ready to answer any question, right? Now, so this is how you need to, when you introduce yourself, when you tell about current project, if you are driving the interview, it means interviewee is driving the interview, then you need to tell all the things what you know in a lot of detail. Let's say if interviewer is not listening to you and he is talking all the stuff what he knows, right? So obviously he won't be talking a lot of nonsense. He will be talking the thing what he wants to know from you, right? Let's say if he wants to have a candidate who know Kafka, kind of, right? And you haven't spoken a word about Kafka in your introduction. He will be listening to you patiently, but at the end he will be asking questions related to Kafka. So why I covered how to introduce yourself, try to prepare yourself in detail by seeing the JD. Whether you have worked on Kafka or not, if Kafka is their major focus and you applied for the job, you need to know about this thing, right? In that case, you will tell them that, okay, I don't have a practical or the recent experience in Kafka, but I know everything about Kafka. I have done a POC. Okay, and when you have done a POC, you need to know a lot of things like what are partitions, what is the use case, what was the POC, what was the outcome, right? This kind of stuff. In most of the cases, if interview is good, this approach will work. But if interview is not good, if interview want to drive the interview, if interviewer want to drive the interview, you need to be ready for this. But when you talk about rating yourself, you need to be careful, and that's what the thing is, right? Third question: how much coding is needed to crack the data engineering interview? It's a very, very tricky question, and the answer of this question depends on the type of company, right? If it is a product-based company, they won't even touch what Spark is, what Spark partitioning is. They will give you a direct question on some data structure, and they will ask you to, okay, how to parse array and how to bring out this element from array, from list, from how to implement queue, how to implement that, a number of things, or a lot of data engineering, data structure questions, right? And now the question is, do you need to know data structure or implement data structure as a data engineer? I would say you should have the knowledge. If you don't know, do learn about it, but don't give so much effort. So be careful for which type of company you are applying for. So if you apply for, let's say, product-based companies, right, then they will be surely going here in the screening round, or they will be asking too many questions related to data structures. For example, what are the different data types available in Python, which are mutable, which are not mutable, okay, and how to parse a list, how to add element to list, these kind of question. Then the most asked question literally in the interviews is, if I have a list or array of elements 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever, and I need to bring out all the elements whose summation is 8, right? So in this case, what two elements are there? 5 and 3. So how to write this program? So these kind of questions, right? So you can choose any programming language and you can write the programs. These are very, very easy questions. There are so many sites available on the internet, right? Stack, whatever you can say, HackerRank or Codality. So many sites. You can use them. You can learn few questions, most frequently asked question, right? Now, these are one type of question. The second type of question what interview can ask you is related to your job profile. That is your data engineering profile. right? You are data engineer. Now, here you can have excuse that, okay, your program might not be well performance tuned, might not be O1, O means big O notation, or it's not be in very good shape. But when it comes to data engineering, there is no excuse, right? You need to know what logic you need to apply for. So let's say if somebody asks you, convert this query, select summation of salary by employee from employee, let's say this is employee name, from employee group by employee name, right? If they ask you to convert this into data frame, you should know it, right? If they ask you to convert this into RDD, you should know it. So this is the most easy question what they can ask you, right? The other question is they can ask you is, if the interview is good, they will start with word count program. That, okay, write a word count program. They will see the depth which you know. When you explain your programs, right? When you explain your data engineering programs, don't hesitate to jump into depth. So for example, that don't hesitate at why you used broadcast, or why you used a map or flat map, or why don't you use this. Don't hesitate. Programmers, interviewers will love to learn your ideas. That, okay, why this, why not that? Okay, so this is the amount of coding you need to be learning. So at in any approach, you need to learn at least one programming language, right? And this programming language can be anything. So Python, Scala, obviously I would prefer only these two, Python and Scala, for data engineers, right? Python is the most easy language when it comes to data structure, and Scala, obviously, teaching you guys, so it will be easy for you to implement your data engineering questions, right? So do go through them, but you need to know the basic programming constructs. For example, one question they can ask you, I have a list of 1 2 till 100, right? I need to take all the odds and even from the list. It's very easy, right? You can use modular program, you can use modulars, and then you can bring if else. So you need to know how to write this if else, right? And how to print this result, how to do the basic stuff. So do go through this programming language stuff, right? One more thing which I missed here in how to introduce yourself, and I didn't miss it actually. So basically, how you guys are maintaining code, right? Your CI/CD process, or maybe your code maintenance process, right? Version maintenance. So you need to cover this tool as well. So when you say, okay, we are using GitHub, Bitbucket, and then we have a master branch, we have this branch, and we are pushing code into it, then we are multiple people are working on the same branch, so we are using merging. And then when we push the code to the master branch, then maybe if you're using Jenkins, let's say you are using Jenkins, right? So whenever the code has been pushed to the master branch, automatic Jenkins pipelines had been triggered, and this code has been deployed to the production. Kind of this. So you need to be preparing your use case around this as well. What are the best practices? Okay, so now one more question is, what are the best practices you have followed into the industry? So the best practices will be revolving around commenting of the code, putting proper comments, use the most, for example, the performance tuned operator. You need to always check out the code when you start development, right? And don't use where lot of the time in the development. Always use well. And the next question people can ask you about how you are doing performance tuning, right? What are the steps you guys did to performance tune your code? And when we talk about performance tuning, performance tuning depends on the tool or the technology what you're using. For example, Spark, Hive, right? Or general Hadoop. So when we talk about Spark, what we can say that, okay, we have used broadcast variables when one table is small enough. We use Parquet file. In Hive, we have used ORC file, or we have used partitioning or bucketing, and number of things. There's so many articles available, but you need to know the answer of these things. This is the most asked question in the interview. Okay, now, yeah. So this is covered under what sort of questions, right? So what sort of question can be asked? So I have covered almost everything. So the first question is, they will deep dive under the topic. For example, when you will use the broadcast variable, if your table is, okay, the most important question what interview can ask is the practical use cases or the practical runtime errors. For example, what is the maximum time, what's the issue which you face maximum time in the production environment, right? So you can say out of memory issue, and then he will say, okay, out of memory is good, but what you are doing to resolve it, right? Then what are the different ways you have did the performance tuning, and why the performance tuning is needed, and then what is, if you are, if they want somebody with MapReduce, right? And then they will ask you what combiner is, when combiners can be used, right? Different kind of stuff. And then they may ask you about Spark streaming, like what dstream is, right? How dstream is it different from our normal RDDs? What different operations can be used there? The most favorite topic of so the most favorite topic of interviewer while ingesting is Scoop. So they will ask you how many reducers you have used in a Scoop job. So this is a tricky question, right? So you will say no. Scoop is a map only job. Now the good question is, do we need to say we or I? So it's a tricky question. Sometimes you can say we, right? We as a team, but most of the time you need to say I am doing it. What is my responsibility? So basically, and let me cover this question in a lot of details. So in a typical data engineering team, you have minimum 4 people or maximum maybe 40 people, right? So what these 4 people are doing, they might be working on 4 different data pipelines, right? So in your data engineering world, you will have multiple pipelines. So what people do that, okay, they divide the data pipeline based on the business areas. For example, this data pipeline is for, let's say we talk about banking, right? We talk about banking. So this is for internet banking. This is for mobile banking. This is for kiosk banking, or this is for tablet banking, right? So ideally, if there are 4 people, everyone will be SME for each of the pipeline. So you can say we as a team is working on banking application, but my responsibility is to work on internet banking pipeline to make sure this pipeline is running end to end with no issues, right? And when we talk about we are resolving this business problem. So obviously these all pipelines constitute to a banking application, right? Banking application, and they are resolving some business problems. So you can say we here, right? Let me think what else is there. So we have covered how to introduce yourself, who drives the interview, how much coding is needed, what sort of question they are asking. Okay, now the last thing, what sort of question they have asked, now what sort of question you need to ask. Obviously you will get your 5 to 6 minutes in the end to ask few questions, right? So you need to use this 5 to 10 minutes or maybe whatever time you get in the end very wisely, right? So the first question is, what type of work they are doing, right? The tools they are using, the team size they have, the business problem they are trying to solve. If it is, in fact, let me write it down. Tools related question, team related question. Third is tools, teams, and then environment, right? Fourth is business problem. And fifth, if it is a consulting company, you may ask which client it is. They won't tell you, but it's no harm in asking it. Okay. Sixth question, it depends. I'm not sure it's right to ask or not. So if you feels like there's no HR in between, right? This is the first call, then you may ask, okay, when I can expect the next call. I won't prefer it. It shows the desperation, but if you feels like you can ask it. I think this is all, what we need to see when we it's not about big data interview, it's about any interview. Okay.
So how could you end up the call at the last?
Oh yeah, this is a good thing. Okay, so how to end the call, right? So the call can be ended in two ways. Either your interview will say, okay, it's very nice to talking to you, and okay, you will say the same, that okay, yeah, I really enjoyed the call. So first of all, it's a good question. So you always need to be positive, even though you feels like you haven't answered 5 or 6 questions. Still, don't show that you have lost the battle. You always needs to be pleased. You always needs to be smiling, full of energy, positivity, and at the end, you are always say, "It was nice talking to you. To be honest, I learned a lot, and seems to me it's a very, very interesting project, and I would love to work with this team." Okay. So yeah, and sometimes interviewer will say the same, and he will say, "Okay, same here." These are the few things what you need to take care. Now, one more thing which I need to cover here: what not to do, right? What not to do. What not to do. So don't try to fool the interviewer. Okay. Sometimes, let's say you don't know the answer, but sometimes you don't remember the answer, right? You know the answer, but you don't remember it. Then you may think that okay, it may be right. So just tell them honestly that I don't remember it right now. I worked it in the past, and I think the correct answer should be this, but I'm not sure because I haven't used for last 1.5 years. Okay. The second thing is, don't show the desperation. Okay. When you look desperate, it will be negative for you. Desperation in the sense, don't ask too many stupid questions if they give you the chance, right? One more important thing which you do not need to do, don't be overconfident. Okay, so it means even though interview is going too good, still you need to be polite. You need to be with the interviewer, listen to him very carefully, right? So do listen to him very carefully. If you don't understand the question, don't hesitate to ask him again. But rather than you talk rubbish and you got rejected, it's better that you ask him again. That okay, sir or ma'am, I don't know. I sorry, can you come again? Something like this, right? So this is all about the whole interview process.